So it's been a crazy couple of days and weeks for the NFL. A lot of trades have happened. In today's video, we're going to be going over them. Kind of a late video coming out. I was away Sunday night, all of Monday, all of Tuesday until right now. It's 9 o'clock Central Time as I record this. Let's go ahead and talk about some of these trades because the NFL got shaken up quite a bit. So my mock draft is being pushed back till tomorrow because the draft order changed. Team needs for teams traded. So there's a lot to go over. Look out for the mock draft tomorrow, and let's go ahead and talk about some of these trades. Some of them I will gloss over because I can't provide much insight on the Raiders receiving Justin Herron and a 7th in exchange for a 6th round pick. Maybe he competes for a starting job. I don't think this really moves the needle too much. And that was back in September. We're going to get up very quickly to the trade deadline. Deion Jones and a 7th round pick headed to the Browns. Atlanta receiving a 6th round pick in compensation. Maybe this would have been big a few years ago. Deion Jones is just not the same player. Health has been a concern. The Browns do have a consistent need at linebacker. I'm not sure Deion Jones really solves much. Cardinals trading Robbie Anderson to the Panthers. It makes sense. He was not really getting along with the coaching staff at the time. Matt Rule fired, of course, but Cardinals getting Robbie Anderson will compete to play. He's really just a deep threat. I think the ideal situation for the Cardinals, they have Hollywood Brown as their main deep threat, but he's a little bit better overall as a player. DeAndre Hopkins, Nuke, is just that elite receiver. Their offense should be awesome. And then Rondale Moore, ideally, is your run after catch guy that you get the ball underneath and watch him run. The offense really hasn't been able to unlock his abilities like we saw at Purdue, but Robbie Anderson, just another deep threat to add to the offense. They didn't really give up anything for him. A 6th round pick in 2024 and a 7th in 2025. I don't hate this for either team. Carolina wasn't really getting any use out of him, and Arizona adds just more depth at the very least. I talked about the Christian McCaffrey trade at length. That's a video on this channel. If you're interested, you can check that out if you want some more detail. But the Niners are giving up quite a lot. They do have control of Christian McCaffrey. He is a great player. I'm excited to see what he does in the offense. I don't really mind it for either team. Carolina getting value back for Christian McCaffrey, and San Francisco, who's really trying to compete now in their Super Bowl window in the next few years. Just add a really great playmaker when he's on the field. He's unbelievable. Very sad to see Breece Hall go down for the year. He was playing so great for the Jets, but Michael Carter, as much as I love him as a player, he's not really your main guy. Running back by committee, bring in James Robinson, more of a bruiser, tough downhill runner. I don't mind him. He's going to get carries at the very least. He's someone that has had a history of being a very good running back despite being an undrafted player. Has dealt with some injuries lately, missed a lot of time, but is back, and I see no reason why he can't be successful in this offense. So James Robinson for a conditional 6th round pick. Really can't hate on that too much. The Cowboys get Jonathan Hankins. The Raiders really are not strong on their defensive interior, like at all, and they traded Jonathan Hankins. I'm not really sure what that changes for them because Hankins is, I would say, quite past his prime. And as for the Cowboys, I know they cut Tristan Hill today. This was as a result, I would assume, of this trade. He's a good rotational piece. I'm not going to say that he does too much for Dallas, but he's a rotational inside defensive lineman. So more depth. I tweet about pretty much all of these, by the way, if you ever want, up to the minute reaction. They're not always great analysis. Sometimes you're just like, whoa, didn't expect that to happen, because that's my genuine at the moment reaction. But I did tweet about Robert Quinn, and I had to defend him quite a bit because I think people are so caught up in sacks, and his sack production last year was inflated, right? But this year, he's not getting any sacks, and people think he just sucks now. He's still a very good pass rusher. His pass rush win rate is still near the top of the league. He's still pressuring the quarterback at a decent rate. He's still got great bend. He just hasn't registered the sack numbers. And I think that it's nothing to be afraid about if you're Philadelphia. You're getting a really, really good player and a rotational player, so he's going to stay fresh for longer. You have great pieces on the defensive line already. You have some great, high pass rush win rate guys already, like Josh Sweat, who's a pretty solid pass rusher with a great interior of that defensive line. I don't think this is bad for Philly at all. They obviously see this year as their Super Bowl window. They want to jump through it. They want to win the Super Bowl. Robert Quinn helps you do that. A 4th-round pick this year probably does not. I love the trade for Philadelphia. I don't mind it for the Bears. He's a pass rusher that you're not going to keep around long term. That's into his 30s. You're getting some value back. I don't mind it for either team, but I especially like it for Philadelphia. The Chiefs traded Kadarius Toney. I did a TikTok on this and a YouTube short trying to get into those a little bit more, more digestible form of content. You guys know I'm a Giants fan. I was excited for Kadarius Toney, and we saw his potential. Had nearly 200 yards in the game against the Cowboys. However, that's really the only thing I can talk about. We haven't seen him play really at all this year. We barely saw him play last year. He's just a player you unfortunately cannot count on. Maybe he's going to be great in Kansas City. I think what probably ends up happening is he has flashes, kind of like week 1 Sammy Watkins type stuff, where he's awesome for a week. He's a fixture in the offense. He's great after the catch. So great after the catch. But I think you're probably still going to see him plagued by the same things that he was plagued with the Giants. I don't want to talk too much about his character because I can't speak on that, but he didn't really seem to buy into the team culture with the Giants, and was constantly missing time with injuries. So I think in Kansas City, he's still probably going to be about Kadarius Toney and missing some games. And you hate to see that because he's so talented, but this is someone that historically you cannot count on. Whether that changes or not in Kansas City remains to be seen. This could be an amazing pickup. They are trading quite a bit for him. It's a 2023 3rd-round compensatory draft pick. This was a little bit more than I thought Kadarius Toney would get back in a trade, and a 6th-round pick. So as a Giants fan, I'm happy about it. I don't think the Giants are really a contender. I know they're 6-2. I'm not buying it. They're great. They're fun to watch. They're really playing in some close games. They really haven't played, all that well this year, but they played just enough to win 6 games. So you love it as a Giants fan. They're fairly fun to watch. Toney wasn't doing anything for you because he wasn't on the field. I think he could do stuff with Kansas City if he remains healthy. This was the big one, though. Dude, I woke up from a nap. I went to a wedding on Monday. I was setting up all morning to help out from 9 a.m. till about noon. Went back, took a nap, woke up. Roquan Smith was on the Ravens. And this is really an interesting trade. Roquan Smith for A.J. Klein, probably salary related. And then a 2023 2nd-round pick and a 5th-round pick for the Bears. This is tough because the Bears really aren't contenders either. Obviously, Roquan Smith was not in their long-term plans. Otherwise, they would not have traded him. And credit to Roquan Smith for ending his holdout and still playing and staying healthy. But Baltimore gets one of the best linebackers in the league playing off the ball, period. He is an incredible player. I think he adds so much to this defense in Baltimore. It enables guys like Patrick Queen to play more downhill, let Roquan Smith be the thinking guy, kind of read and react, whereas Patrick Queen, who struggled at times diagnosing, can kind of just react and go hit somebody, which was always more of his game. And I just love what Roquan Smith does for Baltimore. They've struggled a little bit defensively this year, and a lot of that has been on the back end. Secondary especially has not played well. They've had some key injuries. I get it. Pass rush up front could be better. I think Roquan Smith just overall makes your team better, so I really don't mind it. And for Chicago, you're getting some pretty high-value draft picks back, at least in that 2nd rounder. Maybe you'll do something with a 5th. A.J. Klein just comes in and probably plays because you don't really have much choice. And then kind of the shock one. When I was looking at some of these trades earlier when I stopped at a Buc-ee's, not sponsored, obviously, I saw some of these tweets that we'll talk about in a second, and I saw TJ Hawkinson of the Vikings. I go, that's just a fake account trying to capitalize. But no, TJ Hawkinson was actually traded in division to Minnesota. And this is not the first time we've seen Minnesota and Detroit trade recently, of course. In the draft, the Vikings enabled the Lions to move up for Jamison Williams. They, in turn, took both Lewis Seen at the back end of the 1st round and then Andrew Booth Jr. in the 2nd round. So we'll see how that works out long-term for the Vikings. But this is another big one. Irv Smith Jr. seemingly out for the year with a high ankle sprain. You wanted to come in and get a playmaker? Guess what? You got TJ Hawkinson. And I really thought about this one. We'll talk about the return first. Minnesota gets TJ Hawkinson, a 2023 fourth, a 2024 conditional fourth round pick, and the Lions in return get a second round pick this year and a third round pick next year. But my main issue with this, maybe not even an issue, but just food for thought, because TJ Hawkinson, as you guys might remember, TJ was taken inside the top 10, very, very high for a tight end, and a true tight end. You know, we see Kyle Pitts, and we like to think that he's more of just an offensive weapon, versatile weapon, as we've said before, instead of just a tight end, and he adds more value to the offense because of that. But TJ Hawkinson is a true tight end. And what is the hit rate on first-round tight ends versus tight ends taken anywhere else in the draft? And obviously, you have more swings from rounds 2 to 7 and undrafted, right? But maybe you get better pitches to hit, so to speak, in the first round. A little baseball analogy for the World Series. And I don't know, because I think it's safe to say that TJ Hawkinson, in hindsight, not worth that top 10 pick, despite being a complete tight end. He's a really good player, but what does he really do for you? What does he really do? Because in order to get that value back, you had to draft George Kittle or, Travis Kelce or somebody of that type. Right, especially, I think they were going for George Kittle. Yes, the Iowa tight end connection, but blocking plus receiving aspect. And we just really haven't seen TJ Hawkinson play like a top, 5 tight end in the league. He's had some big games. Don't get me wrong. I think he's really good. But I don't think he was worth that top 10 pick. And the fact that you can even get a second round pick back for him and a third, yes, you're giving up a fourth this year and a fourth maybe next year conditional. But you're getting back some great value. And the Lions just continue to not be competitive, unfortunately. They've played in some tight games, but when you look at the record and you see 2-5, you go, okay, it's another year for the Lions. So I like this trade for Minnesota in the fact that they get someone that can help them compete for a Super Bowl now. They've got a great record. We'll see if they can keep it up. They've collapsed before. And for the Lions, you do get some pretty good value back, some better picks, at least on paper. And, yeah, I mean, it sucks to see. Homegrown guy going in division. But if he helps the Vikings replace Irv Smith, which I think he does, and I think he's probably a little bit better than Irv Smith Jr., I don't really see a problem for Minnesota. I think the trade's good for Detroit. This one, controversial. Chase Claypool to the Bears. The Steelers get a second-round pick back. So here was my thinking on this. Chase Claypool is not worth a second-round pick. He was drafted in round 2, but he's not worth a second-round draft pick in this upcoming class. He's just not. Chase Claypool is a fine player. I think that's fair. He's not top 10. Obviously, he's not top 20. He's probably not top 30. He's a fine receiver. He's okay. He is a big-bodied guy, good athlete, not really a great separator. If you can get him involved creatively, maybe he adds something to the offense for you. But I think part of why Chase Claypool was effective in the past is he was never the top option, probably wasn't even the second option. And as a third receiver on a team, this was someone that could offer you a big jump ball receiver down the field, a big slot, maybe some run after catch at times, big body. But as maybe someone that actually has to be a weapon in an offense, especially Chicago, I don't really see the value with this one. I think he's good, right? Like maybe if this was a third or a fourth, you're a little bit happier. So what's going up one round? It's a high pick though. It's the Bears' second round pick. And they're not especially good, as you guys know. So this is probably going to end up being a top 40 pick for Chase Claypool. And I just really don't see the value there. I know, we had to outbid the Packers. No, you didn't. You didn't have to do that. Didn't have to. The Packers were offering a second round pick. Why did you have to offer a second? Because you needed Chase Claypool? You think Chase Claypool really transforms the Chicago offense? And in fact, the thing I'd be most excited about is his potential as a blocker in that offense. Darnell Mooney's the big deep threat. Maybe you create him some more opportunities as a result of having someone at least more competent in the offense. But as for what this does for the Bears, are they going to build around Chase Claypool? No. Is this really going to make their offense so much better? Probably not a ton. The only reason I could rationalize this is the fact that you at least got Justin Fields, somebody a little bit better, and hopefully that helps in his development. I would not be stoked about giving up a second-round pick, especially a high second-round pick for him. I don't love it for the Bears. I think in the sense that you're helping out Justin Fields in a way, you're getting a little bit better. Maybe it's fine, but you gave up a top 40 pick probably to get it done. Maybe top 45. I don't love it for that reason. I think it's too much to give up for Chase Claypool when we know the player that he is probably at this point. He's never going to be an elite separator. He's just probably a fine option. And do you think he can do better than that in the draft? Apparently not. And for the Steelers, yeah, you get a ton of value back. I think that goes without saying at this point. Steelers also added cornerback help in the deadline deal. I think the Steelers honestly got better. I think they lost Chase Claypool, addition by subtraction, and you got William Jackson. I think they are a better team now than they were a few days ago. William Jackson is a good player. He is a solid corner. He's someone that you can leave on an island, and he's capable of being a true CB1 type player. Is he a top 5 or 10 corner in the league? Probably not. He has played up to that level before, but he's a good player. We'll see what he does outside of being with the Commanders, but he was definitely a really good player in Cincinnati at times. I like William Jackson a lot. You are giving up a 6th round pick to get him and trading or receiving a 7th round pick conditional as well. Now, here's the thing. He was apparently going to get cut because of cap issues. If the Commanders could not trade him, you automatically ensure that you get him on your team. I like it for Pittsburgh. I really do. Big trade. Bradley Chubb from the Broncos to Miami. Miami receives Chubb and a 5th round pick, and I'm sure they received a big Chubb. Denver, Chase Edmonds, a 1st round pick this year and a 4th round pick this year or next year. Now, the Dolphins had their 1st round pick forfeited, tampering, all that. So this pick, I believe, is from the 49ers, as a result of the Trey Lance deal. And I actually like this for both teams. I think the Broncos are a little bit disappointing. Chubb was somebody that you were going to have to pay big time. Really good player, though. Really good. This one, I think, is just fair for both teams. Are you going to likely get Bradley Chubb's value back in the 1st round? No, probably not. If you're Denver, probably not. But it is a lot cheaper. It affords you the flexibility to do other things with your team, which clearly needs a little bit of help. And I think what this really comes down to is the fact that Miami also thinks that this is their Super Bowl window. Tua's playing real well. You have Tyreek Hill. You have Jalen Waddle. Your defense has played well enough outside of the fact that you really don't have a great pass rush. And if your offense can keep you in games, which it has been able to, the Dolphins will continue to be good. And getting a big-time pass rusher, having a really good season in Bradley Chubb, it's great. He's not going to have to do too much to fit into the system. He's pretty much, hey, go rush the passer. And that's going to be great for the Dolphins because there's not really going to be too much of a period between Bradley Chubb having to learn the playbook and then eventually becoming a playmaker. He can probably just fit in and slate in right away as a starter, and it's great value for the Dolphins. Yes, you give up some stuff. Chase Edmonds, who cares? Honestly, who cares? We'll talk about why in a minute, but he really wasn't doing much in the offense. What was his value? As like a somewhat occasional receiving option? Wasn't that good. You were giving also a 4th round pick. It's fine. It's honestly fine. Bradley Chubb is that good. This is your Super Bowl window, or so you think. Bradley Chubb makes you a much better team. I like it. The Jags. Ooh, I love this trade for the Jags. They receive Calvin Ridley, who we know is what I really value among receivers. He is an elite separator. He's a great route runner. He's really great at getting open. That's going to make things a lot easier on a young quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, who continues to take strides, but doesn't really get a whole lot of help from his receivers. And that, I think, is limiting his progression and development at this point. I like Trevor Lawrence. He makes some awesome plays. We've also seen Trevor Lawrence not play so well at times. But overall, to me at least, he's been impressive. Just get him some help. They don't have a clear receiver 1. Calvin Ridley coming back from suspension is a true receiver one. You were giving up a 2023 conditional 5th and a conditional 2nd round pick next year. So the conditions of this basically comes down to if he makes the roster, if he stays on the team. Here we go. If he gets reinstated by a date, it's worth a 2023 5th. Now, I don't know what this means because by a date, I don't know if it's by a date or a bye week. I don't know. That's a little bit confusing me, but I think it might be at a specific date, and I'm not sure what that date is, but that'd be a 2023 5th rounder. Otherwise, it's a 6th. And if he makes a team in 2024, which keep in mind is 2 years from now, it's at least a 4th. If he hits a playtime milestone, it's a 3rd, and if they get a long-term extension, it is a 2nd round pick. So it's as high as a 2nd, but not necessarily a 2nd. He will be back in 2023, but if you don't like him, if you don't manage to extend him, if he's not on the team in 2024, you're really not giving up a whole lot. And we know Calvin Ridley can be elite. We know he can take the pressure off Trevor Lawrence, making those throws a little bit easier, giving him a safety net. The only thing is Calvin Ridley is starting to get a little bit older. He was a pretty old draft pick, but for a good route runner, I see no reason why he still wouldn't be an effective player at 28, 29, 30, 31 years old. He's just that type of player. I think this is great for Jacksonville. Calvin Ridley has shown that he can be really, really good. Maybe true wide receiver one is a bit of a stretch, but at the worst, he is a very, very solid option. So I like this for Jacksonville. Atlanta, you have the potential to get a 2nd round pick back from a team that just might not be good. So kind of like that for them. And then Jeff Wilson is back. Really was enjoying a breakout season with injuries to Elijah Mitchell this past year. Jeff Wilson is really fast. I know he has one of the top ball carrier speeds this year. And do I think he's an upgrade over Chase Edmonds? I think I do. You're trading a 5th round pick to get him. It's a run-heavy offense. Not bad. And then the Broncos. This is an under-the-radar move because I feel like a lot of people don't know Jacob Martin. Fairly young, athletic pass rusher that really wasn't going to be playing a whole lot with the Jets because they have so many options that this doesn't hurt the Jets at all. The Jets are getting a 4th round pick in 2024, and they are trading a 5th. And of course, Jacob Martin. He was really just a rotational edge rusher. You have so many different guys in that defense. Bryce Huff, who can be good. Carl Lawson. I mean, you drafted Michael Clemens. You had options. I've talked ad nauseum about John Franklin Myers in the past. Obviously, 1st round pick on Jermaine Johnson as well. They just didn't need him. But I do think he's good. Is he Bradley Chubb good? No, probably not. But there is some upside with Jacob Martin, and you're really not giving up that much value to get him. I don't think the Broncos really got too much worse at this deadline. I think Martin has potential, and I do like the potential of some players they have already on that defense who are fairly young. I mean, you look at, Baron Browning. I think he's shown real true flashes of being an elite pass rusher at times, and that's not consistent. That's where you start to get the actual elite level of play, is doing it consistently. But he's shown that he can be a really, really good pass rusher. Great athlete, and I think Jacob Martin is a nice complement on that other side. I like the Broncos. They got a 1st round pick back from a team that, could end up being very, very good, obviously. But you kind of had to recoup draft picks at some point because you traded so much to get Russell Wilson, which has not worked out up to this point. But I like this for the Broncos quite a bit. And for the Jets, you're getting a 4th round pick back for somebody that you could just as easily replace in the 4th round, probably with another rotational defensive end that may or may not make the team. The Bills swap running backs. It's Nyheim Hines for Zach Moss and a conditional 5th round pick. Nyheim Hines is really good. He's a great receiving back. I mean, the Bills tried to go after J.D. McKissick. He agreed to sign and then didn't. And then you drafted James Cook because you wanted a good receiving back. But Nyheim Hines is just better. He's just better. Zach Moss, is there much to say about him? Like, he might make the team next year. I don't know how much Zach Moss is going to play. But a conditional 5th round pick for a really good receiving back in an offense that could certainly use a really good receiving back, already a dynamic offense. This is the rich get richer. You like this a lot if you're Buffalo. If you're Indy, you lose a really good player. But at the same time, I guess you get some value back. You're probably not going to be as competitive as you thought. Love him to death. Sam Ehlinger, quarterback 1 now. but that's not ideal. Falcons go ahead and trade a 7th round pick for Rashad Fenton. I guess with Trent McDuffie expected to get more playing time, I know he had some injuries. You don't really need Rashad Fenton as much. I know they have a lot of young players playing in that secondary. Jalen Watson, of course, Joshua Williams, who was a pick out of Fayetteville State. You expect to see them get better and improve with more playing time. Rashad Fenton is like fairly good though, like as far as he can be a starting corner in the league. I guess if you're the Falcons, I guess. When you look at Rashad Fenton in coverage, and this is tough without, actually watching the tape, which I have not admittedly on Rashad Fenton. I've just watched the games. He really hasn't allowed too many yards in coverage this year. As you can see, 260. However, is allowing a catch almost every time he's targeted, 82.6%. So you'd like to see that number come down a little bit, but I mean, these stats have to have context, which is the fact that yeah, they might be catching the ball in front of him, but he just really isn't allowing too many yards per game. You'd like to see, these numbers in the 60s come down a little bit, but he's good enough to be a starter. He's not great by any means, but he's good enough to be a starter. And then the last trade is Buffalo receiving Dean Marlowe, who is better than the practice squad safeties the Bills were throwing out there before. If we remember in the Dolphins win, the Bills didn't have Micah Hyde. They didn't have Jordan Poyer. And Micah Hyde, I believe, is season ending, right? I mean, he's on IR. He's got a neck injury, which has apparently been a long-term issue, and he's 31. I don't even know what this looks like for the rest of his career, to be honest. I'm 99% sure this is a season-ending injury, but if I am incorrect, you guys can surely correct me. I know you will about probably anything you disagree with so far in this video. But Dean Marlowe, he's better than what you had outside Jordan Poyer, obviously. So you're trading a 7th round pick to get him, I think that's fine. Dean Marlowe, again, not great, kind of like Rashad Fenton in a way to me, where he, isn't amazing, but I mean, good enough to be a starter on that team with injuries to, some of your main guys, and we've seen what that looks like without 2 really important pieces in the back end. Is he going to play great for Buffalo? Tough to say. I think there is a world where he slots into that defense and where he is actually fairly good because there are a bunch of great playmakers around him. Getting Tre'Davious White is going to be huge. Jordan Poyer was an all-pro last year. I could see this being pretty good for Buffalo. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I know Dean Marlowe has not exactly been in the best of situations in his career. Detroit and then now Atlanta. Although he was with the Bills for 3 seasons, so a bit of a reunion there. And had 2 interceptions and a few pass deflections, a sack in there. I mean, just from a preliminary glance in 4 starts, seems like his numbers were pretty impressive. And I actually don't really remember him at all with the Bills, to be fair. So that's going to do it for these trade deadline trades and a little bit before. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this style of video, just talking some football. And let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Mock draft tomorrow and then back to some of the Madden stuff. But I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.